Hello world, and welcome back to Homestead Head Start, where we are starting from a single family home, learning to garden and gaining the skills we will need when I buy a piece of land that I will affectionately call a homestead, even though it may only be an acre, 3 acres, 5 acres, 10 acres, not a full 40-acre homestead like a real homestead. But it's been a while since I made an update. You can hear I got a neighbor doing construction in the back of my house. Last week it was the guy next door, and the next week, or the week before that, it was the guy on the opposite side. Then another guy on the other opposite side, and then they poured concrete on that side. So every weekend has just been too noisy, but it's been some time since I've given you an update. And there's the garden as it sits now. I just got some stuff in the ground in these front couple stripes. The black ridge and the straw gully. I have about, I think, 6 and 7, maybe 12 bell peppers and baby bell peppers, both of which mature in 60 days or 65 days. It's currently July 17th, 2023. And yeah, there's a bunch of people walking around in the yard behind me, so I kind of don't want to talk too loud. I hope you can hear me. But I got 12 new pepper plants down, bell peppers, which I realized, what the hell, I love them. Well, why don't I grow them myself instead of buying them at $1 a piece or $1.25 in at the store? You can see I got tomatoes happening. I got corn happening. You can see some baby corn in front of the big corn because I planted a full row of corn and a full row of beans right back behind the pink patio pavers along that black strip. And apparently the birds came down, I watered, and the birds loved to play in the sprinkler. It was hotter than hell. I don't blame them. So I didn't come out and shoo them. I don't have an owl scarecrow, which I should have, or I'm going to get, because I'm fairly certain they ate my 15 corn seeds, which actually I had doubled up. So they ate 30 corn seeds because I planted 2 in every hole, making sure something would fire. And that was the 89-day corn. So I replaced it with some 65-day corn, hoping that it will have enough time to bear fruit before September 15th. In an earlier video I made today, a small video, a short video, about, gardening indoors and getting my seedlings started. And yeah, these guys here are very late to the party. There's maybe 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, there's 5 green beans at the back. Then there's a row of broccoli that I have no hope for. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 broccoli, and it's super leggy. It's laying down on the job over there. It's pretty sad looking. But the little peppers in front, it might be too early to get them outside at only 2 inches tall. But I gotta hurry this process along. So it's either do or die. I'm tired of running the grow lights on the inside of the house. I did try and experiment with these guys by creating a petri dish, basically, and cutting little 1-inch squares of paper towel. Then I put a seed on there, and then I soaked it, or I misted it. And then I covered it with a lid, and I kept it in the dark. And a lot of those seeds germinated, but a lot of seeds didn't. And that's what I'm trying to avoid, is double planting out here, and then getting 2 plants where they got to pick one out and throw them away, and another one where maybe the seeds were duds. So by getting them to germinate in a petri dish, which I used a Pyrex casserole dish, and put little 1-inch squares of paper towel, put a seed on each one, and then misted it with a little spray bottle. And I kept it wet, I kept it dark, kept it wet every other day. I would re-dampen, and man, in some cases, for some of the seed packets, everything fired, like the peppers. Well, damn near everything fired. The beans, not so much. They didn't all fire. Or they did fire, but then when I transplanted them, they croaked. So anyway, I have one sad broccoli plant. I don't know why I cannot get broccoli to grow. It's being eaten alive. It looks like it bolted. The guys who started out indoors, they got real leggy. I'm going to show you when I get back down on the ground, but you can see I put another strip at the back of the garden. I was talking about expanding it a couple of rows that direction, which I'm going to do next year. I'm going to get rid of these. I've got a couple of sunflowers going here along the tree line, but I'm gonna push this garden 3 feet or 4 feet further towards the back bush row, and then I think I'm good as far as I'll go that way because there's a shade, there's the tree line, the shade from that bush row. And anyway, that garden, I might come forward another 2 rows up front here. Let's see, I'm trying to get my finger there. I might come forward another 2 or 3 rows because it's getting good sun. But you can see here the porch or the deck, elevated deck, is way above, and there's a corner here that wouldn't be getting the best light for the maximum period of the day, but whatever. So that's the big garden patch update. And then I showed you the strip along the fence line. Each fence post is 10 foot on center, so there's 10, 20, 30 feet of 33 feet of stuff here. These first 6 are jalapenos. Then I've got bells, a couple bells. Actually, there's one weirdo who snuck in. I don't know where he came from, but it looks like banana peppers or Anaheim peppers. And I'll go down there and have a look at that one because I didn't notice that from on the ground. But wow, that looks like a big pepper, man. It looks like I might have a really good bell pepper growing there. Yay! Yeah, and then I've got the weirdo, and then I've got an extra Thai pepper, an extra cayenne, I think, that were left over from the buckets that didn't. I didn't have enough buckets to put them in. And then I already picked my first 2 ripe red tomatoes. I actually got a little ahead of it myself and picked them when they're kind of orange. But then towards the end there's 6, oh no, there were 2, 4, 6, 8. I guess there's 9 bean plants at the end. And I've got a good 2 servings of beans inside that I've already harvested. So I'm gonna do a quick walk around this. I plowed up some extra rows in the front, and that's what those, the hill and gully, and I'm trying hills and gullies. This was no landscape paper, so you can see it's very, very weedy, and I don't want to get on my hands and knees and weed between these tomato plants. I'm thinking about getting out the garden shears or those little weed cutters that go like that, and just like clipping the grass to keep it low instead of trying to pull everything out by the roots. And my back is sore and old, man. So here's my baby corn. That's 65-day corn. We've got 65 days. Oh yeah, I mentioned in the earlier video that I talked about. Go to almanac.com and put in your zip code or your city and state, and they will tell you what zone you're in, what garden zone you're in. And from there, you can figure out, like I'm in zone 4B in South Dakota. So my last frost of the season is usually May 15th. This year, they claimed it was May 10th, but we ended up getting it May 15th or 17th even. So I had not brought anything outdoors yet. I had begun hardening plants. By hardening plants, that means the things you've started indoors, you take them outside for an hour and a half one day, then you bring them in. Then you take them out and you stick them back under the grow lights so they get their full grow light, but they're only getting real harsh daylight and wind for an hour and a half. The next day, you put them outside for 3 hours. They get a little wind, they get a little stiffer, they get a little backbone, and then they learn to stand up to the real sun, and then you bring them back in, stick them under the nice, calm, cool grow lights. I'm using LED grow lights, so they're not hot. Then the third day, you bring them outside for 6 hours. Same thing. They're going to get a little wind. They're going to get a little sunburn. But what you're hoping to do is harden them so that they don't end up getting sun scald, which I talked about in an earlier video that you can find about my pepper plants that I took outside too early, and the leaves got sun scald, basically sunburn, and they turned silver. And yeah, they got real dry, and then they fell off. But new leaves replaced them, fortunately. And man, I can't believe Mother Nature is the bomb, dude. It's been really fun learning all this crap, and it might take you 6 years, right, to figure it out. That's why this is a homestead head start. Start now, do something, even if it's wrong. Doesn't matter. I've made a lot of mistakes, but I've had a lot of success, right? I mean, clearly, I'm going to have tomatoes coming out my ears. I'm going to have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 solid rows of corn easily, and there are about 15 plants in each row. So that's 60 ears of corn, really? Just from my backyard and some fertilizer? Ooh, doggies, I love it. And, you know, I put down a piece of landscape paper and some paving bricks so I can walk down the center. And then here, I plowed this up with my little electric tiller. I bought a Sun Joe tiller. You can see that in an earlier video. And I actually did, I dug, let's see, I bought a hoe, a flat hoe, and I made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I made 2 4-foot strips, 1 4-foot strip in the center, and 2 4-foot strips back down at that end. So like a number 5 playing card. 2, 1 in the center, 2. So 4-foot row, 4-foot row, 4-foot row, 4-foot rows. I did spinach, green leaf lettuce, salad bowl lettuce, and Simpson black seed lettuce or something like that. And some other, I don't know, I had 1, 2, 3, 4 varieties of lettuce and a row of spinach. Not a single plant fired. Again, back to the birds. I'm going to have to get a plastic owl scarecrow down here. And next year, get serious about figuring out how to grow lettuce. And the reason I decided that I would try it back here is because lettuce doesn't really need intense, constant sunshine. And eventually, that corn later in the day is going to be throwing shade across this black paper. So I would cut, a slit here and put in my lettuce. But for now, or what I did was after I tilled it, I just hoed a couple rows. I raked it and got as many weeds and grass and crap out of there as I could. And then I dug a little gully. I sprinkled in a row of seeds. 4-foot row, just random. And seeds or lettuce only needs to be covered by 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch. So then I took this brown seed starter soil, which doesn't have any kind of porous material. It's got no fertilizer. It's got nothing. It's like sawdust. And I sprinkled that on top of each row. So I had 5 very clearly defined 4-foot rows that were densely sprinkled with lettuce seeds. And then I ran the sprinkler. Actually, I misted that. I misted the seed starter, and I let that dry and compact a little bit, and then I misted it again. And I got pretty serious for the first 2 days, 3 days. I misted it like 6 times. And then I hit it with a sprinkler, and then the birds were out here, and I'm assuming the birds just figured out how to peck away and eat all the seeds. Anyway, so I decided today I'm just going to, I retilled this. I raked it. I tried to get all the grass and weeds and junk out of it. And I put down a double layer of landscape paper, a couple of patio pavers. I need to pick up more patio pavers. Just to hold it down. It's going to sit there the whole winter, I hope, and throughout the summer. And hopefully it will not frickin' get penetrated, being a double layer weed bearer. And hopefully it won't get penetrated by a bunch of weeds. But next year, then, when I peel this up, and I've only got like 3 fasteners here, 3 at the far end, 2 there, 2 there, and 2 here. I hope that it'll be nice and black dirt with no living green things at all. All right, so now we're getting on. Oh, I'll show you a close-up of, check out my new babies, the new baby, or bell peppers, baby. I got dwarf, that's what they're called, dwarf green peppers. Then that, let's see, 1, 2, third row away from me is dead broccoli. I don't know why they start out so spindly when you start them indoors. But when I tried starting them outdoors, the birds eat them. So I'm fighting a losing battle on the broccoli. I want to try this other kind of broccoli that I have found called, I don't know, fingerling or something. It's like these little tiny stalks with little tiny crowns. And there's like a multitude of them instead of one singular big head. That looks really cool, but I haven't found the seeds. I found them online, but I haven't found them locally in a store. So I'm going to have to order them over the winter. But then I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 green bean, bush bean plants that I hope grow. Man, I had 2 rows of I had a row of pole beans and a row of real bush green beans, Blue Lake bush green beans. And I think here was all broccoli that got disappeared next to that broccoli head. I was going this way with broccoli. But anyway, long story short, do something, even if it's wrong. You're going to learn from your experience, and then you're going to do better next year, and you're going to do better next year. And you keep experimenting, you keep trying, you figure out what works and what you had the best success with, and keep doing it. Clearly, I'm having pretty good success over here with my green beans. Now later, or next year, I'll probably put my green beans over there where the peppers are, and I'll bring the peppers and put them down here. Or I'll move the tomatoes down here, and then get my peppers and then my green beans, and then tomatoes down there, so that, you know, I'm not exploiting a specific area with this. It's like sharecropping or rotation cropping, right? You don't always plant the same thing at the same spot every single year, even though I'm fertilizing. So it's not like these guys are probably going to suck up a bunch of nutrients that these guys wouldn't, or vice versa. But, you know, it's just recommended that you spread the love. Uh-oh, it looks like, it looks like this guy broke loose. He was trying to hold up this heavy-duty plant. Oh, wow. Okay. So, oops, sorry, you can't see what I'm doing. Gonna try to, oh boy, yeah, I'm gonna keep that branch on that side of the stick. And, well, I'll come back to this. So I got this stretchy tape, and I tied it to the fence, and I tied it to this, and I tied it to the stick and that. And apparently the wind has busted it loose. So I'm gonna have to retie that. Or otherwise, that particular tomato plant got really, really heavy and started drooping over and was laying on the ground here. So I stood it up, and I put a stake, and I put a strap on it. And I will have to come through and strap up a bunch of other stuff. You notice this guy, he forked down here at the bottom. It might be hard to see, but yeah, that tomato plant forked, and it started running up. This already has fruit on it, and it started tipping. So I put a strap on it. I put a strap on this. The strap is stretchy, so as the plant grows, it can actually expand a little bit. It'll move around in the wind a little bit, keep up its stem strength by letting it blow around in the wind. I have some green beans. I've already harvested some. Here's a couple that are sneaking around that I need to get down here and glean through the plant. You can see how difficult they are to spot. But they're there. I got to get my little pruning shears. You want to wash your pruning shears with rubbing alcohol every time you use them, apparently, because you can potentially get what's it called, fungus or mildew or some kind of disease. You can spread disease from your shears. Look at that. There's little cayennes down here, dude. Nice. There's also weeds. That's so irritating. I thought mulching, maybe my mulch isn't dense enough to prevent weeds, or maybe the weed dropped seeds inside the mulch and it's just growing this in here. Wow, there's a ton of little jalapenos here. And nothing on that bell. I think that's a bell. Then here's a bell. See, I have a little marker. Bell. And now let's look and see. Yeah, look at this. I got a genuine bell pepper back here, baby. So this is just an oddball seed that got mixed in with everything else, and it is not a bell pepper, even though it's marked as a bell pepper. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 jalapenos. Got some jalapenos happening. Got a bell happening. This was supposed to be a bell. Oh well, came out of the same seed package. Had a runaway seed apparently. I hope that will be a bell. I hope this will be a bell. And I hope that'll be a bell. I'm not having much flower action. Like a lot of flowers on the cayenne, but not the bells. I've been hitting them with Tiger Bloom fertilizer. And that's about all I can do. So, over where you saw those empty buckets last time I made a video about the bucket line, here it is. It's been a while since I made a video. But like I said, this guy just redid the, they poured new concrete, they built new stairs, they repainted the entire deck and installed and uninstalled and reinstalled all the pickets. So there's been a lot of noise and it's uncomfortable to walk around making a video narrating to yourself. Already the guys from behind the house stopped and peeked through the trees like, what the hell is he doing over there? Anyway, you may remember in an earlier video where I had brought my peppers out and I had a bunch of empty buckets and a couple of buckets that I had brought out a little too early, and I hadn't hardened my peppers enough and they had sun scald, and I had them lined up here in the shade giving them a break, and I gave them some water and took them out of the sun for most of the day, and then actually for a couple of days they're still going to get sun. Like later in the day, this little shadow will be gone, and they did get some sun, and they all lived. they all survived, and they all regrew leaves, and everything looks wonderful, right? You can see there's a bunch of peppers in here. Cayenne peppers and big Thai peppers. Really nice. And you can see I'm using that same green, stretchy, strapping material you'll find in the garden department. Oh yeah. I got a couple of wooden stakes in here to tie the strapping material to, because these guys were getting tossed around by the wind. This guy has really been tossed around by the wind. You can see even the leaves are flipped over and fly in the wrong direction and stuff. Yeah, I should probably rotate him so he starts leaning towards the sun and equalizes his growth. And he should get a stake and some green strap. And look at this. That is a dwarf Thai pepper. So it's very much like a cayenne, a little hotter, pretty thin wall, and not very pulpy. Super hot. Good pepper to cut up and dice into chili flake or chili powder, cayenne powder or big Thai chili powder. These are my only 2 surviving habaneros. I planted 6 this year, but it was from last year's packet that might have already been a year old. So some people tell me that seeds can last 2 or 3 years for some varieties of plants, and so some seeds, are only good for a season, and then if you don't use them all, they're probably not going to germinate, which is why I was pretty happy to try that Petri dish experiment in the Pyrex casserole dish and the paper towel and mist it. And then when they germinate, I could see that this, there was a root end and a plant end. And I grabbed tweezers and I put them in the little cells of this little planter pod thing that I've got. And it was awesome. So anyway, in the earlier video I mentioned, but in case you don't backtrack and watch that video, that this side of the house gets a ton of sun, obviously. And these peppers are in a pretty hard spot. I'm really thinking of like building, I don't want to make something ugly, but the buckets are pretty not very attractive in and of themselves. But I kind of thought I wanted to put together a couple of like triangles, and then so that I could run a 30% sunshade or a 20% if I can find something that sunshade, garden screen, whatever they call it, and give these guys a little less intense sun, because being in a bucket, they dry out super fast. Like I measured, oh man, I'll tell you what, I'm gonna grab this real quick. All right, this guy, moisture meter. Okay, it's got like a 12-inch rod on it, and I measured, or I checked these guys yesterday. But if you go down just a couple inches, right where the roots would be, like just below the surface, it's wet. If I go even further down, it gets even wetter on the scale. Now, yesterday, it read dry up high and moist down low. So I watered them yesterday. Man, I might have overwatered, because I can tell by the condition of my leaves kind of being upside down puckered. They might have been overwatered. So I'm still refining and figuring out how to combine using that moisture meter and determining how much water I give them. I usually give them 2 16-ounce solo cups when they need water. And I'm measuring how much. Before I was just sticking my finger in there, but the top 2 inches evaporates and dries out more quickly, but the bottom was plenty wet, and the roots probably have headed straight down to the bottom where the water is. And by me adding additional water, then the top is still going to evaporate quickly, and I'm just adding more, making the plant extra wet at the bottom, overwatering. So I'm trying to find that balance. After yesterday realizing that the top said dry and the bottom said moist, or it was low on the needle goes like, moist has a range, and it was at the low end of the moist range. So I gave him 2 16-ounce solo cups, and I just let the hose run there while I filled, dumped, and while I dumped, I kept the hose on the edge of the bucket filling. So they more or less got 3, possibly 3.5 or 4 solo cups yesterday. Now today, I'm noticing by the leaf behavior that they look overwatered. And I did run the moisture meter. It's wet at the surface and it's wet down below. So next time I do this, next time I read that I'm moist down low but dry up high, I'm just going to go with a single solo cup. Yeah, I'm going to have to water more frequently, but I don't want to put them through this stress of overwatered, underwatered, overwatered, underwatered. So it's finding a delicate balance, and I'm really not too hip on the buckets. But the reason I went with buckets is because right up here against the side of the house, it's fantastic sun, but it's too much sun, and that dark background might have something to do with just radiating heat off the house. I don't know. Next year I will throw down another layer of landscape paper on top of this layer. I'll pull any weeds that I possibly can, and what I would like to do is actually put some decorative wood trim and make it look like it's a raised bed, and maybe put gravel in it, because underneath that landscape paper is nothing but sand and gravel backfill. They dug a foundation hole, they poured a concrete slab, then they came and put a dump truck full of sand and gravel around the perimeter of the house, backfill. And so it's not good soil like in the backyard. It's fair soil. It's silty, sandy, black, sandy silt. Yeah, it's not good soil. But yeah, I'm fertilizing. I use Miracle-Gro concentrated. It's synthetic. It's high nitrogen early in the season, and that's for plant, stem, and leaf growth. And once they start showing that they're starting to form buds, which turn into flowers, which turn into fruit, or vegetables, at that point, I start using Tiger Bloom, or Tiger Bloom, and it's got a higher level of the NPK. The center number is higher. I think that's the nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus. But it might be, I think it's higher potassium is what makes the plant blossom, and the fruit, and it feeds the fruit during the growth process of the fruit. The stems and leaves are pretty much done. They might continue growing taller, and the leaves will sustain life and provide shade for the fruit that's growing underneath it. Man, just look at that. That is so cool. I mean, I'm just blown away. I went way overboard on the cayenne. I didn't want to risk not getting something to grow, so I went way overboard. I was afraid that they wouldn't germinate because I didn't have, I only got 6 out of, I think, 12 jalapenos that I tried. No, 6 out of, I don't know. But I only got 2 out of 6 habaneros. And I only got, there's 1, 2, 3, but there's 2 plants in 1 bucket here. So I got 4 dwarf Thai peppers. And I just did that because I thought they'd be cute. But I had a row of 6, and only 4 survived. And like I said, habaneros, I had 6 of them in the little seed pods, but only 2 of them. Well, 4 of them germinated, but only 2 of them survived after transplanting. So that's the way it goes. This was a great experiment. I've learned a lot. I've learned that the buckets, will get hot and they will evaporate far more quickly than the ground. I checked the ground with that moisture meter. It says it's wet at the surface, or moist at the surface and wet below. So this is really holding a lot more moisture because of all the surrounding area and because of the straw. Even though I've got straw in that bucket, the sun is hitting the sidewall of those buckets, and it's just hot. So it's evaporating and causing the moisture to dry out a lot quicker in the bucket. And so that's my garden update, and hope you enjoyed that. I'll try to get busy on doing some other type of videos about getting your act together with regard to finding properties and establishing how much that property costs and how much equity you have in your home. And think about, can you dump your home and buy a property and go live on that property in an RV? It really depends. If you're a waitress working at the local Denny's, probably not, because you have to physically be able to go to that Denny's location, right? I am a project manager. I am a remote worker since COVID, and I'm a contractor, so work got really sparse, but I was able to continue working from home, which is why I can find some time to get busy in the garden and do stuff, but not all the time. Just like you're going to be dealing with, right? But what I'm hoping to do is get onto Starlink satellite and be able to be a remote worker on a remote property. And now that I have some garden skills, I would have a much bigger garden. I'd probably buy a bigger rototiller. You saw my little Sunjo tiller in another video. It's electric, and I would get a gas-powered tiller, or just try no-till practices. That's an interesting way of going about things. The way I have these black ridges and the straw gullies. Now, mine are very close together because I'm trying to pack in a lot more plants, but there's some really good videos about row cropping like that. I don't know if it's really called row cropping or double stack planting or something like that. Anyway, there's tons and tons and tons of great examples of how you could do things, and really a lot of things are going to depend on where you live. I'm in South Dakota with a 123-day grow schedule, right? Go to almanac.com. I checked my first frost date, my last frost date, my first frost date. I only get May 15th to September 15th. You might live in Oklahoma, and if so, you're in a whole different part of the world where you're going to have different bugs, different diseases to deal with. There's a guy, Millennial Gardener. I love that guy. Highly recommend checking out his channel. But he's in New Jersey, and he's in a big, nice quality suburb. He has a huge backyard, a huge house. He's surrounded by huge houses. So his entire backyard is nothing but garden. He's got fruit trees. He's got pathways. He's got raised beds. And something I want to do next year is what's called straw bale gardening, where you put like a stack of 4 hay bales and another stack of 4 hay bales, and then you cut the hay bale, or you groove it, and you start feeding nitrogen, or you start feeding, what is it? Anyway, you start feeding specific rejuvenative or fertilizer into the straw bales, and then you stick a plant in there. You grow your plant inside. You get your seedlings started. Like I've got these seedlings started, and then I brought them outside. Instead of sticking them in the ground, you're going to stick them inside of a hay bale, a straw bale gardening. And you cut the straw bale open, you pour in some specific chemicals. Sorry, it ain't going to be organic gardening, although you could probably do it with a hay bale by putting some cow manure inside the bale. I don't know. But it's really cool because it raises, look how tall that is. It gets you up to knee high. And honestly, that's my biggest gripe about doing the garden is I spend so much time on my knees, getting up, getting down, getting up, getting down. And I do not have the best knees. Who's this guy? Can I get him on the, is he in frame? That does not look like a standard yellow jacket or a wasp. Oh, that's a hornet. Oh, I think that's a hornet, baby. Whew, yeah, he's a big boy. I'm getting out of here now. Nice talking with you. Hope you come back. Bye.